Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to another installment of 100 Forces. If you're new to the channel, what I'm doing in this series is teaching 100 forces with playing cards. I've already taught 40 of them, and if you missed any of them, I'll leave a link down below to a playlist where we can catch up. So do me a huge favor, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you don't miss any more of these golden videos. So with all that being said, let's get into it. Alright, so as per usual with these videos, the force card will always be the Ace of Spades, alright? So imagine that we have a spectator here with us today, and I'm just going to start dropping cards like this, and they can say stop anytime they want to, alright? So maybe right here is fine, but they could have stopped anywhere. I mean, anywhere is fine. But the great thing about this force is that they'll always stop on the Ace of Spades, or whatever your force card is. Alright, so technically this is a second deal, but it's kind of a different. It's called, it's an Aussie wind idea that he calls lazy seconds, alright? So basically what happens is you're going to push off groups of cards rather than single cards, alright? So what I like to do is place the force card fifth from top or anywhere near the top that you can start out with, alright? So that way you can legitimately drop a group of cards without doing a second deal at first. So here's exposed view what's happening, alright? So you spread over 4 cards, and of course that 5th card is going to be the force card, alright? So spread and drop those 4 cards. Now as you go to do it again, you just block push over a group of cards, maybe 5 or 6 or so, alright? So it's very easy and very natural to sort of necktie the deck like this. As you come up, all you're going to do is push back that top card, which is the force card, and just take that bunch of cards like this. But again, that's hidden as you come up, and it's perfectly justified and natural to do that, alright? So you're just doing this the whole time, pushing over a group of cards, pushing that card back, taking that group, and it's called a lazy second for a reason, because it's really a lazy way of doing a second deal, and it's very easy, and it's basically invisible, alright? It does take a little bit of practice, but once you get the hang of it, it's very easy to do. You'll be getting it in no time. So this next one is called The Fitted Force by J.K. Hartman, and if you don't know, if you've never heard of J.K. Hartman, he's got some really nice subtleties and really nice ideas, and any one of his books or booklets are just absolute gold mine, and I highly recommend checking his work out. So here's what that force looks like, alright? So we just begin by taking cards off the top of the deck like this, and we just tell the spectator they can stop anytime, alright? So when they say stop, and that could have really been anywhere, they just look at the card they stopped on. And in fact, we can go a little bit further than that. We can actually put it in the middle of the deck, about where it came from, like this, and with a snap of the fingers, it actually jumped all the way back to the top. Alright, so here's how you do that. Now, the control I just added in there because I think that sort of control, that style of control, fits nicely into this fitted force. So here's how you do the force alone, alright? So the force card is on top of the deck, and then what you're going to do is you're going to pick up about, a quarter of the deck, alright? So maybe, 13 to 15 cards, alright? So you pick them up off the top of the deck like this in Biddle Grip, and you're going to place it into your hand in Dither's Grip. And as you're talking and gesturing, what you're going to do is get a break under that top card, the force card, alright? So a good way to do this, instead of just doing this out in the open because that can be obvious and, like something fishy's going on, what you can do instead is a really nice idea by Dai Vernon called the backup breaker. What that is, you necktie the deck like this, that way they can't see the back of the card, alright? So what you're going to do is take your thumb and swing it all the way to the back of the packet like this, near your pinky, alright? So what you're going to do is slightly push over that top card like this, that way it's sort of being angled like this. You can see that happening, being angled. All right, so with the packet necktied and angling that card slightly, you can still get a break easily with your pinky under that top card like this, and that's invisible as you're moving your hand around and talking, and it's much more efficient than just doing this, all right? So always strive to do the back breaker when you need to get a break under the top card. It's very efficient, and that is Dai Vernon. All right, so once you're talking and gesturing, I just got my break by talking and gesturing. Alright, so once you have your break, what you're going to do is keep picking up small packets, like 5 to 6 card packets, and putting them on top of here, maintaining the break, alright? So just picking up small piles of cards, and you're going to ask them to say stop anytime. It doesn't matter where they say stop, because what you're going to do as soon as they say stop, you're just going to place that packet on there and lift everything above the break, alright? So at real speed, this is what it would look like. Alright, so anytime just say stop, alright, stop right here. And then see what I just did there, I just lifted at the break, making it look like when I brought the packet back, or that's where they said stop, right? So that's the illusion, is that that packet they said stop on is the face card, but really you're just adding those broken cards on the bottom of that stop on packet, if that makes any sense, all right? So you have the break, you bring this over stop, and then what you're gonna do is just add those on, take everything above that break, and show them the card. All right, so it's a very nice illusion of them stopping going anywhere. All right, so once again, they say stop maybe right here, or you can slide it forward for the packet. However, add subtlety to it, however your card handling may be. All right, so you can turn your head at this point. Please remember that card, and that's the force. And for the control, this is actually a Bruce Servan idea called the thumb off switch. And what you're gonna do is take that card and sort of, now when you show it to him, you can sort of do this, side jog it like this, and show him the card. Now, to switch it for the control, all you're going to do is put that card, that side jog selection, square with this packet here. So it's nicely squared on top, aligned with that packet. And with your fingers, all you're going to do is clamp that card down like this on top of that packet, but take your fingers and just drag that card along with it, all right? So you're taking the selection plus an next card, all right? But from speed, with speed, it looks like this. So you show them the card, and then it looks like you're taking that card, but really you're taking the card plus the next card. And since you still have this packet in your hand, just drop that in the middle there, throw those on top, and look how clean that looks. Square that in, and the card's on top. So with this little thing, you got the force, you got the subtlety by Dai Vernon, and you got J.K. Hartman, Vernon, and Servan. I mean, come on, that's just classics, the classic trio, if you will, of card magic. And man, it's just a treat to do, and I think you'll enjoy it. Alright, so this next force is one of those old things that nobody really knows where it came from, alright? It's one of those old mathematical principles that's just fools everybody that sees it, alright? So let's imagine that we gave the spectator some cards, alright? So maybe, I don't know, maybe that many. And we can instruct them to shuffle their cards as much as they want to, like this. And the thing about this is I gave them the cards, so I could know about how many cards they have, alright? So then I would ask them to just throw some cards back on top of the deck, like this, and we'll lose those cards back in the middle, just so nobody could know how many cards that was, alright? So now we just turn our head, and we have them count the cards that they have left, alright? So in this case, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. But keep in mind that I would never know this, alright? This is a secret number that only they know, alright? So what we'll do is we'll take some cards like this, maybe that many is fine, alright? So just so we can get a clear picture, I want you to just think about your number, and I'll count the cards, and I want you to remember the card that's at your secret number, alright? So in this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think you've got a card by now. Alright, so just focus on your card, and think about the value, think about the color. Oh, it's the Ace of Spades. That's an example of how not to reveal a card, alright? So, so that's obviously the force. You saw the force, you saw what happened. So here's how you do it. Alright, so you want to have your force card on the bottom of the deck, alright? So what you're going to do is you want to give the spectator exactly 10 cards, but you don't want to make it known that you know what this number is, alright? So a good idea by Alex Elmsley is the pushover count, alright? So what you're going to do is, in your head, you're going to count 3, 2, 2, 3, alright? So it's always 3, 2, 2, 3, which equals 10, alright? So in your head, you're counting it, but this is what it looks like when you're spreading, alright? So it's 3, 2, 2, 3. And at speed, it just looks, nonchalant and like you're not trying to count cards. You're just handing them a random batch of cards. Alright, so when you're doing 3, 2, 2, 3, and you give them to the spectator, and since your card's on the bottom of the deck, your force card, you instruct them to shuffle the deck, and by a demonstration, you shuffle yours to the top of your deck, alright? So with the overhand shuffle, you just run singles towards the end, and then that force card is now on top of the deck with that shuffle. And you're just doing this as they're shuffling their cards, alright? So it doesn't matter what these cards are, they can shuffle as much as they want to. Now what you say is, look, I gave you the cards, so I could possibly know how many cards you have, but I don't want to know that number at all. So do me a favor and just put however many cards you want back on top of the deck, alright? So they do that. Maybe this many's fine. I say, look, we'll cut the deck so nobody can know exactly how many cards that was. Now, obviously, that was a false cut, and it was the easiest false cut known to mankind. All you're going to do here is called the Bobby Bernard false cut. You start out like a swing cut like this, and you just tap that top packet. you do a swing cut like this, but you tap the top of this packet with the bottom packet like this, and just drop that bottom packet right back on the table, and then do that. But at speed, it looks like a cut, but it's the Bobby and Bernard false cut. All right, so you just turn your head and you ask them to count their cards. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. All right, so what you need to do now is deal 10 cards on the table face up. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And mathematically, accounting from the bottom of the packet, not the top here, but on the bottom, the force card is always going to be at their number that they just counted. Mathematically, it's just always going to happen. So since this happens, what you do is you say, look, I'm going to count the cards, and when I get to your number, I want you to remember the card at that number. All right, so you start from here, from the bottom. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, sometimes I don't even do 10 because sometimes when you count to 10 and end on 10, maybe that seems too like you had to have 10 cards. So I sometimes just stop at 9 and say after 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Have you got one yet? Not even doing 10. I think that seems more, I don't know, natural and like you don't really care what's happening, So now they're thinking of the ace of spades from that principle. And the cool thing about this is their number now. So if you want to, you can do something with that, all right? Since their number is 6, if you look in your pile and you do have a 6, you can do something with that, all right? So you just scoop these up and you just transfer that 6 to the top of the packet if you want to. Throw those on top. Maybe produce that 6 by a palm, going from your pocket, whatever you want to do. Say, I knew the number you were thinking of. In fact, I have a card right here in my pocket. It's a 6. Were you thinking of a 6? They say, yeah. Whatever you want to do, it doesn't really matter. Whatever you want to do, it's like I said, it's art and it's magic and it's how you create it. Say something like, I knew you would take 6 cards and I knew you would think of that ace of spades because actually it's right here printed on the box, or whatever you want to do, right? It's all, like I said, it's art, and being creative in magic is, I think, a lot of fun, and I think you should try it more. All right, so for this force, we're going to use a dice, all right? Or a dice, whatever you want to call it, doesn't really matter. And it's just our standard casino dice. And what we're going to do is get the deck a shuffle, and we can hand the deck to the spectator and ask them to deal 6 cards because the die has 6 sides. We just need 6 cards for this, all right? So, in fact, they can deal wherever they want to. They can even shuffle the deck if they want to at this point, all right? They don't have to come from the top. They can come from anywhere, all right? So that's 3, 4, 5, and 6 cards, all right? So it doesn't matter what the cards are, all right? So what we'll do is we'll lay them out like this. And what we'll do is we'll have them roll the die. And then whatever number that lands on, we'll eliminate that card. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they give it a roll. We got a 6. All right, so we got Jack of Spades. All right, so we'll do it again. Let's see, a 3. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3. What do we got? A 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, we keep going. A 6. We already did 6. A 1. All right, so we got 2 left. And we got, we already did the 6. In fact, there's 2 cards left, so they can just point to one if they want to. Maybe they point to this one right here, so we'll leave that card there. We got the 4, right? So they could have had the 10. They could have had the 2. They could have had the 4. They could have had the 7. They could have had the Jack. But the only one that's remaining after all their shuffling, after all their rolls, is the Ace of Spades. How does that happen? Alright, so that works every single time, and the way it works is with the die itself, alright? This is actually a gimmick die. It's very, very cheap. I think it cost me like $3. Yes, $3. I got it on VanishingInk.com, or you can get them at Penguin Magic as well. Alright, so what it is it's called Dice Without a 2, alright? So you can see it right there, Dice Without a 2. And it's just a gimmick die. It comes with 2 of them, actually. One of them is just regular, and the other one doesn't have a 2, all right? So it actually has 2 5s, all right? So where usually you see the 2, you just see 2 5s, all right? So what you're going to do, obviously, is just have a object at the number 2 position, and they'll never get that because there's no 2. But if you have just a regular die at home and a Sharpie, you can just make one up, all right? So look at this die. I would just examine this die right here, all right? What you're seeing is a homemade die without a 2, all right? So all you're going to do is locate where your 2 is and just make a 5. Make it a 5 with a Sharpie. They're never going to notice that because they're not going to be looking for it, all right? So kind of like a marked deck. They're not going to be looking for they're going to be paying attention to spots on a die, all right? So basically what this is, let's see, it's right here. I mean, if you really pay attention to it, maybe you can kind of see it. And this was a sloppy one, but they're never going to notice that, all right? So that's actually Sharpie right there. So the force itself, the mechanics of what I did in the performance is I had the force card second from top, all right? So I give it a shuffle, maintaining that number 2 position, and then just have them start dealing 6 cards. And when they deal 2, stop them, because it doesn't matter at this point, because they've already dealt there at the second position. So you actually, they don't have to come from the top. In fact, you can give the deck a shuffle, and those cards can come from anywhere, all right? So that's have a lot of freedom with it, all right? So they do 3, maybe 4, 5, and 6. I mean, nobody's going to ever remember that the first 2 came from the top. And the deck was shuffled anyway, so it doesn't really matter. They're not going to be paying attention to all that kind of stuff anyway, all right? So you spread them out, making sure to leave that force card at number 2. And then the rest is, I mean, it's pretty much self-working, all right? So they roll, and you tell them whatever number it lands on will eliminate that card from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so you make that very clear before you do it. That's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because sometimes you can sort of trick people by saying that's the one or that's the one. But in this case, you want to make it clear that that's number 1 before you do the rolls. All right, so they roll the die, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you turn them face up like this each time you do it. And then when you get down to 2, instead of trying to come up with the last remaining number, it's much quicker and more efficient to just pick them both up and have them touch one. Now, since you were eliminating cards the whole time, whichever one they touch makes sense, because if they touch this one, you just give it to them as the force card, right? But if they touch the one that's not the force card, just eliminate it. And that is Dice without a 2 force, and man, it's a great one. And I think you should definitely make it up, or at least buy. I mean, why not just buy this? It's so cheap, and you can do a lot of things with it besides just cards. I also want to point out that they're never going to notice that there's 2 5s, because there's no way the human eye can see more than 3 sides of a die at a time, all right? So no matter how you try to do it, you're never going to be able to see 4 sides, all right? So it would be impossible to see 2 5s, because unless they do this, obviously, but they're not going to do that, all right? So it would be impossible for them to see 2 5s just by doing this and looking at it. All right, so the next one comes from the mind of Larry Jennings, all right? So normally with this force, he would have a crimp in the deck that would allow him to just cut to a certain amount of cards that he needed. But for this, I've slightly changed the presentation and handling where you don't need a crimp or anything like that. So here is what the force looks like, all right? So let's say we had a spectator and we had to name a number, just a simple number from the middle of the deck, maybe between 10 and 20. All right, so I don't have a spectator, but I do have Siri, all right? So I hope you can see that. Hey, Siri. Name a number between 10 and 20. All right, what do we got? We got 14, all right? So I don't know if you can see that or not, but it says 14 there. All right, so look at this. A lot of magicians, when they get a number, they would try to do something sneaky, all right? So sometimes they would try to sneak cards fast at the top of the deck, or sometimes they would try to do a bottom deal like this to try to sneak you out. But for this, I'm not even going to count. I want to be extra fair. I want you to count the cards, all right? So the number you named was 14. Deal 14 cards face up, all right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Your number, the Ace of Spades. All right, so for this, the force card is at position 15 in the deck. All right, so it's always at 15. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 in the deck. All right, so what's going to happen is, since you know that it's 15, you ask them for a number between 10 and 20. Now, whatever number they name, you're either going to add or subtract that many cards to get to 15. What I mean by that is, let's say they named 14 in that example. So what I needed to do is subtract 1 card for that card to be at 14. So what I had to do was make a presentation around false dealing, all right? So sometimes magicians try to sneak cards fast off the top of the deck. And what I've just done there is snuck a card off the top of the deck. Now it's at 14. And I said, or sometimes I would try to do a bottom deal to try to sneak you out. But I'm not going to do any of that. I'm not even going to deal the cards. I want you to deal the cards so there's no cheating going on. And just by doing all that presentation and making it seem so fair, you actually put the card at the number 14. So the math on this is very simple. I mean, I wouldn't even call it having to do math because it's just so elementary that anybody could do it, alright? So if they say 11, you know they had to get rid of 4 cards because 1 minus 5 is 4, right? So just do the same presentation. Say sometimes magicians will try to sneak cards really quick off the top of the deck like this, and you just did 4 cards. Or they might sneak them off the bottom like this and try to sneak you out. But I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to have you do the cards, alright? So now it's at 11. So if they say a number higher than 15, like maybe 17, you know they have to add cards on top of the deck. So in this case, they say 17, you know that you have to add 2 cards, alright? So with that, you just do the same thing. You do, sometimes magicians will sneak cards fast off the top of the deck, or they may sneak them fast off the bottom of the deck and just do 2 bottom deals like this. They don't have to be good bottom deals at all. You can just fumble your way around it. But by doing that, adding 2 cards from the bottom and putting them on top now, like this, maybe give it a false cut if you want to. Now it's at their number 17. Alright guys, so as always, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. It does mean the world to me. And if you got value out of it, do me a huge favor, hit the like button because it really helps the algorithm and it helps push these videos to a larger audience, and that's the whole goal, right? Just kidding, and the goal is to make you a better magician and to help you learn more about card magic, this craft that we adore so much, hors d'oeuvres. Until next time, happy practicing. I love you guys.